right. All right. Welcome back after a rough start. I'm JJ Young, and this is Sticks and Tricks. As you know, this is my nod of the head to the Ethan Makowick of the Licks and Tricks with an episode or two that focuses on the most important instrument of them all.
Bass?
Drums. Well, I mean, I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? This is the only instrument I can play. But that segues great into my guest, who might look familiar from Licks and Tricks because he seems to play all the instruments. It's Eli Bill. Welcome, Eli.
Howdy.
How you doing? Talking to your mic.
Howdy. I'm all right.
What's your name again?
Elijah.
Oh, that's cool. All
Yeah.
right. What bands do you play in, Eli?
I played drums in Imperial Order and Lifeguard.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Eli, one thing that I think, like I mentioned before, that is really like phenomenal about like what you bring to the table as just an all-around musician is that you're a multi-instrumentalist. You play guitar,
I do.
right?
Yeah.
Do you play bass?
I do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you got all the bases covered for, the basic rock band guy, all
It
things
works all right. I'm not as good at those things as I am at this, but
So that was my next question.
so far so good.
You started on the drums.
Yeah, at like 2 years old, so it's like a total of 22 years.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't seem like it from that intro part.
No, that was me messing you up because, some of our brains are only wired in 4/4.
No, it's cool. I fucked up the second one too, but it's all right.
Cool. We're learning together.
It's rock
We're
and
working
roll.
together.
It's imperfect.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I very seldom ever play with other drummers.
Oh no, I've done it like twice.
Yeah, ever.
It's a
I
weird
mean,
thing.
it's fun.
Yeah.
I want to do more. But anyways, so what I want to talk about is a lot of like, so you started as a drummer, right? And
Yeah.
so you started at 2. What was like, how did you get introduced to that? Like, who was it, a family member or somebody that like?
Yeah, my dad, I got potty trained, so he bought me a little Sunlight drum set from Drum World down in Castle Shannon, and that was it for that.
Rest in peace, Drum World in Castle Shannon.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's awesome. So your dad, shout out to Jim.
Yeah.
You play
He's still killing it.
You play or played in a band with your dad,
Yeah.
right?
Good grief. Yeah, Giovanni, too. He's sitting right there.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
The boss man.
Big boss
Haunch. That's
Yeah.
Haunch right there.
There we go.
So the dynamic between you and your dad, like, was he like kind of pointing you in any type of specific like drum directions, or was he just like, yo, you should just like, do whatever you want and like, toss these sticks around? Like, where was the guidance and how strict was it with your dad? Because your dad slams too.
Thank you. He's still slamming it, but no, he gave me like a little blue book of rudiments and said, learn this. And that was pretty much where it started, on like a little like 80s practice pad. It's got like splatter rubber all over. It's wild looking, but no, he liked Rush. That was like a primary influence, and that's still with me to this day. But like he pretty much let me listen to and be influenced by whatever. And early on, it was like a lot of like metal stuff or alt metal, whatever you want to call it.
So that's a good question to stem into. 2-part question. What was like the first groove that you like learned how to play where you're like, okay, I'm getting there. This is awesome. And can you show it? I guess it's a 3-part question. Can you show that groove? And also like, what were some of your like specifically influences in like the metal, alt metal type genre?
I really can't remember what my first groove was because I was real little. Like I was probably playing like pretty young, but I just don't. I'm not quite sure. There was a break from where there was no kit in the house, so it was practice pad all the time till it was maybe like 11.
Sure.
My dad had to sell some kits, and the little kit didn't really fit anymore. So once we got the kit again, my first thing on the to-do list was One by Metallica, and I went and learned that.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And I was like 11. It wasn't that, like, it seemed more impressive then than it is now, because it's just like, sextuplets or whatever it is. But at the time, I was just trying to get like both of my feet working, because that's what I wanted to push myself into after
Can you demonstrate a sextuplet? Because for a person that doesn't read music.
You ever listen to Slipknot?
Yeah, I know there's multiple people in the room that also listen to Slipknot.
Yeah, Joey.
Bust some shit out here a little bit.
I'll just... Just that on the bass drum. It's just triplet feel, just a lot faster.
Yeah. That's awesome. I do not have a double kick pedal with me, but I can't. That's awesome. So you mentioned a lot of practice pad work, right?
Used to.
I think yeah, right. Me too. The a lot of things that deters people from even pursuing drums in a lot of ways is it's such a grind at the beginning. There's like, I would argue with a lot of other instruments, there's less immediate results. With a practice pad, you're kind of like you're just tapping away on a rubber thing for like forever, and you have to like really love it. So what helped you stick with it? And like get you through the times where like there's just that one rudiment where you just can't get your fingers and your hands to communicate with your brain and that kind of stuff.
I don't know. It was just a challenge, and I liked doing it. And when I started learning the rudiments and getting better with my sticking, at the very least, I could take a pair of sticks and like play along to like some System of a Down songs on the carpet or something like that. That was like John Dolmayan was one of my earlier ones, regardless of him getting some bad press. Not very good for him right now. I'm not happy about that. But his drumming is separate, and he was big influence on me through like disco beats and nu metal.
Oh,
so
hell yeah!
Yeah, so
that's awesome. I definitely think that the rudiments, as essential as they are to any type of foundation of drumming, like if the guitar you have like the real book or whatever that thing's called with all the jazz standards in it and stuff, like a sheet full of rudiments is probably essential too. And as much as I don't practice them anymore, I don't know, I can't speak for you, but
I really don't. I mean, I try and work them around the kit. Like the big thing now is if you see on like Instagram or whatever is popular with videos, you see like a lot of these like gospel fusion drummers, and everything that they're doing with like these single strokes is a lot of just paradiddles really fast between like the toms, hi-hats, ride, and everything. And that's when they get like the crossover, like switch up type of beats going on with the fills in between. And like,
can you do any of that kind of shit?
Not really yet. Okay. No, I haven't really gotten my hands beat up to that.
Yeah, I haven't either. And it's a lot of like so for those of you that don't know, Eli, how about you? Can you explain a paradiddle to someone that doesn't know what it is?
Yeah, like if you're just like talking like your hands right here, you just go right, left, left, left. And
yeah,
that's just the pattern. So it's like, that's just that's it. But
right,
incorporating single and double strokes together is mainly the focus of that.
And I would argue that's probably one of the more popular and widely used rudiments everywhere.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
There's probably, And I definitely think, I mean, that's one, you'll never master, but like one of the things that I know those dudes are doing, which I still struggle with, is like for the double parts of it, you're bouncing it, which I'm still trying to just stroke it every time.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff and moving it everywhere.
It's wild.
That's totally insane. That dude, JD Beck, are you familiar?
Mm-hmm.
He's like kind of newish on the scene a little bit. He was just drumming on a video with Thundercat that I have been obsessed with for a while, and he's an animal. But yeah, you're right. Those paradiddles everywhere. That segues into my next question, more of a technical question. What's like your favorite, like if you're at a gig, right, or like a jam or something, and you're getting ready to take a solo, just say it's over 4/4 or something that's kind of like where you can shut off your mind of like staying, like hitting on one every time. Where do you go to try to build a solo? Like what are some of your moves?
I don't ever really solo.
Okay.
I don't really get a chance. I play a lot in like a band application, and it's not like super jammy. Like Imperial Order is like straight up composed. Lifeguard's like kind of like indie college rock. I don't know what Jake wants me to call it. He might get mad at that, but I mean,
we can bleep that if you want.
It's a lot of like
Lifeguard is music.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of like in between, like just small like 2 measure fills, if anything. Like if that might be like the longest. I mean, like I do some like free play at the house, but it always just depends on what I'm feeling at that point in time. Like I might start with something jazzy and then kind of go. It just depends on how long I'm soloing with.
Yeah. So if that's the case, like in those songs, and you're writing something or whatever. Like, what is something that like is like the default setting for Eli? Like, I've got like if all else fails, I'm gonna like throw one of these in there if it needs a little sprinkle of pizzazz or some
I like doing this like between the tom and the snare. It's like if you wanted to slow it down, it's like.
Like kind of like that. I kind of look.
Yeah, it's just
Are you leading with your right hand or your left hand?
I start with my right hand just because
Okay.
I usually like to accent again like I did on that bell, and I usually break into something funky with those. But it just depends. It's like an easy fill. Like even if I'm just like playing something with Imperial, we're coming from like a beat down part, and we're going into something faster. It's like
Okay, that's awesome.
Just, I don't know.
Do you finesse your foot in there with the kick drum ever, or
no?
It's
I just
like
accent
hands
on.
only?
It just depends on what I'm doing. I mean, like I like the sound of like the higher tom when I do that. So like normally I play a 10, 12, 14, 16 setup. So I'll use a combination of the 10 and the 12, or the 12 or just the 10, because I like getting those higher sounds out of it. So I'll usually just save that for when I get to like a cymbal crash or something. I've done it where I'll make like a quad out of the tom part with my bass drum, but it kind of like gets a little muddy and takes away from like the really like the rim shot of the snare, like it's sick.
I'm gonna have to work on that because that's fucking awesome. That's kind of gospel-y though, like the gospel-y chop, because like those dudes will like it, but there's a lot of double kick in there where it's like I can't even do it, but it's like
oh yeah, I mean like fitting it in between and like other fills and stuff. Yeah, I'll go like straight to like a bass drum thing after that, where I'll like split up like a set of like 16ths or 30 seconds between that and the floor tom. Like
yeah, that's it, like hits home with like what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Like yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So you mentioned like your typical drum kit setup. Obviously, drums are a logistical nightmare most of the time. If we had all the time in the world and whatever, I would have you bring a kit down here. Like if it was
that's
easy.
a nightmare.
Yeah,
we don't have
a
a lot
nightmare.
of space for that.
Yeah. So what's your typical like drum kit setup? I know you mentioned it briefly, but if you want to go into some detail of like what really feels comfortable for you.
Yeah, I just have my DW collectors maple mahogany at the house, and it's just 10, 12, 14, 16, so 2 up, 2 down, 22 by 18 bass drum, and either a 1 or 2 snare setup. Ideally, I like to have 3 crashes, a china, a ride, hi-hats, and a splash, but I like to throw out my second ride from time to time, or a 22-inch crash that I use as a crash and a ride.
That's awesome.
Or a second china. It just depends on what I'm playing, or if I'm in the studio with something. Imperial Order has like a bunch of stuff where I like to use different cymbals. Like this has a lot more wash than my traditional china at the house. It's like really dry. So this is a little bit easier to fill in space with.
So you use a lot of those different pieces kind of for like a texture thing, because you said like 1 or 2 snares. I used to have an enormous kit when I was younger, and I have like evolved from it purely kind of like. Do you gig with all that? Like if Imperial Order's playing a gig, do you bring
what you're
all that
looking
stuff?
at right now is what I would typically take to a gig, even for Imperial Order, because it's just taking a couple toms out. I'm not bringing 3 crashes, and I'm not bringing a second ride to clubs. Like, it's not going to happen. These have bells and shoulders. I can make a ride out of that. I play 2 to 18-inch crashes. They're kind of big.
That's really cool you say that. So how, for a drummer that's like just getting started, or they have their kit and they have gear they're satisfied with, how can you get the most out of like a cymbal where you think you just hit it one way and that's the sound? Explain how you're getting the most out of a cymbal, and demonstrate if you want to.
I mean, I don't know. I like to play with the bells on here. Like to use them for like in between beats and things like that, with like the splash, like a lot of like displacement, like. Like to use a lot of like closed hi-hat sounds, as well as like if I'm like slamming a double bass groove, I like to keep them open. I even like to play the china almost like a ride a little bit. It's kind of harder like with the angle that it's at, but I use the shoulders as I would a ride on a crash, and sometimes if I get like that weird bell sound out of the edge of the cymbal, it's kind of sick.
Yes. Do you ever like
it'll
get real spooky?
It'll mess the finish up on me.
Yeah, I guess
I won't do that.
I don't care about that as much. I just destroy everything in my path, and that's fine. Have you ever cracked a cymbal?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
My drum teacher Alex, former drum teacher, shout out to Alex. He makes fun of me because he doesn't understand how I crack cymbals at the frequency that I do.
I have a friend that cracks a cymbal at least like once a gig, I swear to God.
And I'm like, bro, I'm not doing it wrong. You taught me how to fucking hit cymbals. You know, I'm just,
it just happens.
It just happens. It's
it's
an occupational hazard. Okay, very good.
Very good.
So I talked to you about your dad.
You did.
That's really cool. and I talked about your influences. My next question is, if I were to close my eyes and somebody was to play me like 3 drum beats, and one of them was you and 2 of them are other people, like, what is your sound and how would you define that? Like, what makes you stand out? Like, if you were playing, it doesn't have to be as nuanced as it sounds. Like, what's the Eli Bill sound in drumming? That might be a hard question. So you
It
can take
is
the
because
time to
like
think
I've
about
never
it.
played in just like one type of band ever.
Sure.
Or like played with those. Like I've done a lot, and I've done a lot on my own, like playing different genres. I mean, like I don't know.
What's like your signature? Like, where do you live? Like on drums? Like, if that makes sense.
I mean,
Yeah, first thing you play when you sit down.
without thinking,
The most
let's see.
mindless shit.
The most mindless shit. If I'm trying to get my hands warmed up, I'll do this thing I had in a band called Strong Hand years ago. It's just like a weird little. I don't know if I can do it with the tone space. Let's try it.
That's awesome. Can you explain to the people at home what, like, the mechanics of what you're doing right there?
Yeah, I don't know why I can't ever just start. It's just I'm not used to it coming from a different part in the song when I started up. But
Sure.
I'm just moving between the floor tom and the bell of the ride. So.
Yeah, so that like kind of gets you warmed up, gets the blood flowing, and like that's like a signature Eli move.
Yeah, I mean, I've thrown it in other songs since then just 'cause it's like a fun, groovy type of thing to play. Like, the bell sounds ridiculous on this. It just pierces through everything. So it's like really prominent on like that upbeat type of
Sure.
without doing like a disco beat on the hat. So just
I kind of missed that because I cracked a cymbal that had a really great bell on it, and so the only ride I have right now is kind of that, and that's kind of has a little
That's
bit
dark.
more wash to it. Yeah, it's wicked dark.
Dark.
All right, I wanna let's bring this home a little bit.
Okay.
This I want to close it out with like another jam or something crazy, but I think this last question will kind of stem into that. And
Okay.
it's a question I ask all my guests on Sticks and Tricks, and it's quite simply, what's like the craziest shit that you can do? Whether it's like something you learned a long time ago, or just like, it's just like if you want to, you have a girlfriend, but if say you didn't, and there's like a lady in the crowd that's eyeing you up, and you're like at the gig, right? And you're like, okay, I gotta swoon this lady.
What kind of music does she like?
She likes whatever you're playing.
Well, I don't really have to think about that too much.
What
What about the dudes there? What
yeah.
about, let me wow some dudes.
Wow some dudes.
That'd be a
What are
little
you
bit
doing to
easier,
wow
yeah.
some dudes?
Oh, I'd probably play that beat from Bleed by Meshuggah, 'cause that's like half the reason I got into Imperial Order when I was like 17.
Please
I started
do it.
playing that at practice. So
Please do it.
Okay.
Please go ahead. Before Eli starts, I'm gonna take us out. This has been Sticks and Tricks with Eli Bill. Thank you for joining me, Eli. It's been a pleasure. Eli's gonna play a Meshuggah beat, and I'm gonna probably just try to, and I'm gonna try to slam along with it. This has been Sticks and Tricks. I'm JJ Young, and Steel City Death Club Productions. Go to the Steel City Death Club store, Steel City Death Club. Okay, hit it, Eli.